Good morning, everybody. It may not be morning when you're listening to this, but it's morning. I thought about doing the Good Morning Vietnam open for this show, but I don't want to scare anybody when you're listening to this in your car or wherever you might listen. But welcome back to Two Spot Monkeys Live. This is Jim. Tom, I'm back with Tom. Tom, how you doing, sir?
Great. Awesome.
It's an hour later where you are, so it's not too early.
Yes.
But we're back with you, recording in the morning. I'm back at the real job. I'm not at the real job right now. That would be wrong. But I'm back at the real job in the office. So recording schedule has been altered a bit moving forward so that we don't have to take breaks in the middle of the day or whatever. But yeah, here we are recording and talking. We want to make sure to get an episode up this week because we got a big pay-per-view coming up this weekend with 9 picks for us to make in our head-to-head, which will be fun and mean that we should not be tied after this, you would think, unless we make all the same picks, or I guess there is still absolutely a way we could be tied, but let's hope not. Maybe we can break this thing and see how it all works out. But before we get into AEW's Revolution, I always want to call it Retribution because we always talk about Retribution, but it's Revolution. There we go. Got it in. Yeah, how the mighty have fallen in that. But anyways, that's another topic for another week. We wanted to just hit a couple of quick hits before we get to AEW. The bulk of our time is going to be spent talking AEW today. But on Monday Night Raw had the world title match between The Miz and Bobby Lashley. I have not seen it, but I do know what happened. I've read the results. Tom, you saw it. Bobby Lashley wins the WWE title. I think 11, maybe more than 11 years. I can't remember now how many years since he first debuted back in his first run in WWE. I've seen a graphic, and 11. It's not 11. It's way more than that.
Yeah. He would, because he was involved at WrestleMania 23.
Yeah,
with Umaga and Vince and former president, who shall not be named.
That's my very first WrestleMania. Yes, but live in person.
Yeah. So yeah, gosh, was he what 03, 04 debut? So
yeah, so close to 20 years, closer to 20 years.
Yeah.
I don't know where the 11 came into my head. Maybe that was Kofi Kingston was 11 when he won it. But Bobby Lashley wins the world title. Seems to be, we would think, on a collision course with Drew McIntyre for WrestleMania. Although I am curious to see what they do at Fastlane now. Which they got to get built in that show here. But hey, why would we do that ahead of time?
Those that are tuning in now, get ready for 2 weeks from now when we have a 4-match preview for Fastlane.
Right. They have already announced one match, at least for Fastlane, which it's the women's tag match, and I don't understand why we're running that back. But okay, apparently that's what we're doing. Poor Naomi and Lana won a tag title shot a month and a half ago, and they cannot get their tag title shot to save their life. But that's, again, maybe another topic for another day. Lashley wins the world title, though, Tom. They had a show-long story to lead to this, too. What were your thoughts as you watched it unfold?
Yeah, it was entertaining, and it wasn't as maybe campy as you might think it was. I think everyone played their parts well. Interestingly, because again, Lashley and the Hurt Business are heels. The Miz is a heel. So positioning these talents in a way that you want to favor one or not favor one, and I think it's easier to not favor the Miz, was interesting. They didn't really overtly go out of their way to make you empathize with Lashley, but I think you could find a way to do that and want him to get his hands on the Miz and as Lashley was very adamant about wanting to kick his ass or do whatever he was going to do in a very physical and violent way. There goes that E rating on our podcast now. Sorry, guys.
Thanks, Tom.
But no, the way it all played out was good. Side note, I don't need Shane McMahon. I mean, Shane McMahon has returned to Raw in the last few weeks, and I believe I know where that's headed, and we'll talk about that in weeks to come as Mania develops more.
It's it's headed towards me taking a bathroom break at WrestleMania. Is what it's
but because he's existing in the same like screen time universe with Adam Pearce, it makes Adam Pearce less impactful. Because we know that there's going to be a time where Shane McMahon no longer is there. But why does he have this greater power than Adam Pearce? Like if they were like struggling.
Man.
I know, but just it's
stupid.
It is stupid. It's cringeworthy and it's frustrating. But yeah, apparently Shane McMahon has all the power and it's interesting. Like I would, in a perfect world, there'd be a storyline tie-in back to the Hurt Business and Retribution and the fight. What was it? Raw Underground. I was about to call it the Fight Pit, but that's not it. Raw Underground and all of this stuff with Shane.
No, the fight Pit is the really entertaining thing on NXT. Underground is the other thing.
Precisely. So So as much as I enjoyed it in just a very basic, like show-long storyline that culminated in Lashley winning the title, which is an important like milestone for him and for, again, another African-American champion, the involvement of Shane McMahon did take away my enjoyment. It doesn't matter that it was Miz and Lashley. You could have inserted anyone here, and Shane McMahon's like over involvement, it reeks. It tastes poor. It's vinegar. So
100% agree on the Shane piece, and is Adam Pearce? I mean, is he a babyface office guy? Is he a heel? Like, I haven't seen NXT from this week, but I've seen that somehow he may be involved there. In what happened, I don't know. Like, I don't know what Adam Pearce. Their booking with him is just really weird in his role, and and it almost seems like at some point, are they going to he got put in the tag title match on Monday night. Are they going to an Adam Pearce versus Shane McMahon match at some what? I don't know. He's treating Pearce very strangely, and I agree. Let's be honest. After April 12th. Shane McMahon probably not around. Most likely. It's the way it works. And I get it. It's WrestleMania. He's a McMahon, whatever. Hey, the first time they're going to have fans back, he's going to have a match. Let's be honest. Triple H probably finds a match on this card somewhere. I don't need it. I don't need it. And as you and I have said, if they are going to Shane and Braun, snooze fest. I do not care.
Yeah.
Maybe they can make me care, and kudos to them if they can, because they are starting behind the 8 ball on that one for me. But let's go back to Lashley. That little diatribe about Shane, notwithstanding, and I 100% though wanted to say that I agree with everything you feel about that. I love that Lashley won this. As I was reading through the report, I was a little afraid they were going to keep doing the Miz avoids defending the title thing and not pay it off at the end of the night, but pay it off at Fastlane or something. And that almost would have been a little too stretched out. It's kind of, and I realize how hypocritical this is going to sound. We talk a lot about how they hotshot too much. They don't do any long-term planning. They don't, all of that. And now I'm sitting here saying they had to pay it off that night. They couldn't do any long-term to the 21st. But it read really well. I doubt I'll have a chance to go back and watch the entire show, which is a little bit of a bummer. I would like to at least see the match that finally did happen, but I thought it sounded well done, all in all. The Miz is a cowardly heel, which is why it's always bothered me. We've talked about this a few times over the last month or two. When he does the cowardly, goofy heel stuff, they do the midget, midget Sheamus and Drew or whatever it was, the actors and all of that kind of thing, and then they do, right after that, he holds up the Money in the Bank and I'm the Miz and I'm going to be the world champion. Like, the back and forth character stuff for him just doesn't work. He's a cowardly heel. That's who he is. He plays that role reasonably well as a cowardly heel. So I'm glad they went that route with him and didn't make him it almost would have been totally out of character for him to say in any way that you thought he actually believed it, that he was going to go toe for toe with Bobby Lashley one-on-one and beat him. he might say it, but you'd see it in his face that, you know, he didn't believe it. He didn't want to get in that ring with Bobby Lashley, and he didn't want to get in that ring with Bobby Lashley. And in the end, he was right. He shouldn't have, you know, as far as staying champ. I'm excited to see. I'm actually, I feel like this is probably headed towards that we've said Drew McIntyre at Mania and Drew winning the title back at Mania to give Drew that moment in front of a crowd, not a 80,000 person crowd, but maybe a 15 or 20,000 person crowd. And by the way, they need to get that figured out and put some tickets on sale. If, you know, if they're bringing a crowd in, like,
we're 5 weeks away.
Right. You got to, I mean, the Super Bowl happened there. You've got their plan. You've got how they handled things. Like, at some point, I don't know. It's just weird that they haven't done that yet. And it's not because Florida's been shutting anything down. Florida is like, hey, do whatever you want. Who cares? Coronavirus doesn't exist. So that doesn't seem to be the problem. It's very odd that they haven't done that yet. But it seems like that's where it's headed. And there's a part of me that doesn't want that. Like, I want Drew to have his moment. And I'm really bummed that he didn't get that moment a year ago because of COVID. They had told that story pretty well with Drew. And then, you know, it really would have been an awesome culmination for his career to beat Brock Lesnar in front of 80,000 or 90,000 or whatever in the world Raymond James holds for WrestleMania if it were able to be full. And it sucks that didn't happen. That being said, I don't want to see just a 2-month run for Bobby Lashley. I don't know that helps Bobby Lashley. You know, Kofi got, a 6-month run, I think, from April to October. Now we can talk, there could be a whole nother show about whether it was a good run, how they booked him, the fact that after a 6-month run, he's your world champion, you beat him in 6 seconds or whatever in the world it was on the Fox debut. A whole different story. But I want Lashley to have a more dominant run. I think his character deserves a more dominant run, and I think his character needs that because he is this dominant force. And if you just beat him in 2 months, and I'm sure it'll be an epic match. Lashley and McIntyre have had some really good matches in the past, not only in WWE, but also in Impact. They've had a long history there. I'm sure they will go guns a-blazing. We've talked about what we think the crowd is going to do for those guys at WrestleMania already, and I'm really looking forward to our head-to-head conversation about WrestleMania. Not necessarily for all the matches, we've already said that, but just to talk about what does it mean to have a crowd back and a crowd of that size, because this will probably be the biggest crowd we've seen in over a year at an American wrestling show. Japan has had, obviously, with Wrestle Kingdom and that, some shows, but they had rules around cheering, and I'm going to tell you right now, WWE is not going to put in the please don't cheer rule that New Japan has had. So at least I don't think they are. So I don't, that's my only fear. Like, I'm really happy about this, and yet I have trepidation because I think it's all going to come to an end in 5 weeks. And I guess I'm curious to see, maybe they'll tell a story in a way that I'm okay with it when it happens. And maybe it won't happen. Maybe Bobby Lashley is actually going to be, I think would be only the third heel to go into WrestleMania, the main event, if it's the main event, which, let's be honest, it probably won't be. It probably won't. It might main event night 1. It's not main eventing night 2. But most heels don't go in and then win or retain the title if they have it. Triple H did it. The Miz did it. How crazy that those are the 2 names I'm saying. Triple H and The Miz are the 2 that have done it. Maybe Lashley can be that guy, but I don't know. That's my only trepidation. But congrats to Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, I'll say also that I'm in camp Lashley. I think that he deserves and could actually have a more sustained run.
Totally agreed.
I don't give WWE the credit or the trust to actually pull that off, which is a bummer. I think that, you know, in a different time with pro wrestling, this is an amazing story. I actually, as you were talking, as I was thinking about this too, and especially because Lashley did not get pinned when he lost the U.S. title a few weeks back. I don't know when the last time he actually has lost a decision, like pinfall. I don't believe he's tapped out. So I'd love for them to say, Bobby Lashley, your new world champion, has not been pinned or submitted in whatever amount of time. That to me makes Drew McIntyre's chase that much more engaging if you choose to go that route. Again, sadly, this is sports entertainment and less on the sports, more on the entertainment. I think that's a sports centric view. Again, when you think of rivalries or you think of, all of the good like sports stories that you end up like connecting to or having like historical context for, there's that tie-in. We're on the doorstep of that for WWE if they're planning to go the McIntyre recapturing the title and having his moment route, and Lashley's a great foil in that, and then you can build him in that way. That's kind of one path. I like that path. I'm not married to that path because, to your point, how fantastic would it be to have Lashley continue to be dominant from now until SummerSlam? And I'm just throwing that out. And then have it build to be something more. Because who knows? Maybe SummerSlam is that next show in an outdoor venue where you can bring fans in, and maybe you can increase capacity. We're not at a 25% or a 40% or whatever. More folks will be vaccinated ideally by that time. I don't know. It's a little bit of like wishful thinking in a way, but also like pie in the sky of what could be.
So here's a story you can tell. While you were talking and you said it, I went and looked. So his last singles pin loss was actually January 4th on the Legends Raw. Riddle pinned him. I'm assuming it was a roll up, something like that. I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember. I saw the show. I just don't remember. So it wasn't memorable, and WWE could kind of pretend that didn't happen too. The story you can tell is before that match, the last pinfall loss that Bobby Lashley took was in June of 2020 to Drew McIntyre at Backlash. So there's the story. Okay, you somehow gloss over the Riddle pin on January 4th, or you just pretend like it never happened, because it would not be beyond WWE to just pretend like that Raw never happened, and that match never happened on Raw and Riddle didn't pin him. And the last, you could say it even in a way to avoid that, the last pinfall loss Bobby Lashley took on pay-per-view was at Backlash last year to Drew McIntyre. So there's how you get away from the Riddle thing. There's your story. The last guy to pin Bobby Lashley's shoulders to the mat in a pay-per-view title match, or in a title match, because that Riddle match wasn't for the title, for the U.S. title, in a title match, was Drew McIntyre. Almost a year ago. That doesn't really work, but they'd say it. It's kind of like you're in we're in the Dallas area, but you're 3 hours west of Dallas or whatever.
Yeah, they've never been shy about creating their own narrative, right? They've been flexing and bending the truth.
Exactly. So, be interesting to see, and we'll have a lot to say about it here over the next 5 weeks, I'm sure. And again, what do they do at Fastlane? Right now, I don't have, unless the Miz gets a return match, maybe, but they've done away with the whole, everybody's entitled to an automatic rematch thing, which is fine with me because that gets a little bit too routine. But I'm sure there will be Miz shenanigans on Monday night where he's trying to get another shot at the title. And he should, because you were the champion. Why wouldn't you want a return match and wouldn't want a chance to get the belt back? Although it could also be that he totally pivots and just goes to the Bad Bunny storyline and forgets that he was ever champion. And we all wonder, why does it matter then to be champion if the Miz doesn't care? Another conversation could take us 3 hours to go. But
that's a good transition to Ring of Honor, which is our next topic, because that's where champions and former champions do care about the titles that they win or lose.
Absolutely. And the big news coming out of last week's championship edition, which you and I were both very interested to see, is that we have new tag team champions. We have Kenny King and Dragon Lee of Los Facciones de Ingobernables, which you and I both always struggle to say. But I think I got it pretty close there, who defeated the foundation of Jay Lethal and Jonathan Gresham to win those tag titles. Be interesting now to see how it all lines up for the 19th anniversary, because Dragon Lee is going to do double duty, assuming no other title changes between now and then. I believe I saw, and I'm probably not going to go back and watch it, but I believe Wednesday night on the YouTube exclusive Brian Johnson did not win the TV title. So
that's correct. Yeah.
I was pretty sure I was safe in that. I didn't even need to see it on Facebook to know that probably was what was going to happen. Again, Brian Johnson, a good character, but you're not putting him over Dragon Lee right now.
A nice attention to detail piece with that is that Dragon Lee did come out with a tag title belt. So again, who knows if this was recorded in kind of sequence, but just the idea that happened on TV last weekend, whenever you get ROH, and then this Facebook exclusive member experience YouTube match, he came out with both belts. Again, I think I'm a detail guy when I can be, and as best as I'm able to. So that I noticed that for sure.
Absolutely. Great catch, Tom, and great attention to detail, however it was taped at the taping. So good for Ring of Honor. And so, yeah, King and Lee, of course, win with shenanigans and not following the rules, which is what LFI is all about, is not following the rules. Of course, we saw that again then in the world title match on Ring of Honor television as well, when Kenny King hit Shane Taylor with the chair, which I don't know about you, but I saw coming from a mile away.
Well, and they were trying to tease dissension kind of to an extent with Kenny King and LFI because of Kenny King's history with Shane Taylor. And then of course it's a red herring because Kenny King is the one that leads to Shane Taylor getting put down by Roosh. Yeah,
I never bought into the dissension thing. I just didn't. They're way too early in the LFI story. Unless King was like leaving Ring of Honor or something, and I'm pretty sure he's one of the stars they've talked about that they've re-signed, and Roosh and Dragon Lee have re-signed as well. So I just the whole time that was happening, I was like, yeah. And then when they started playing up the relationship between King and Taylor, which called back to when King and Taylor had a match shortly after the Pure tournament. I think that was maybe Shane Taylor's first match, maybe both of their first match back since the pandemic. I remembered them talking a lot about their history there too. So good, again, good attention to detail, carrying that story forward into this match. But that isn't what we wanted to really talk on. It is, though, the new tag champs. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes. As with them as tag champs, I like it. I think it continues those issues between LFI and the Foundation. I think it's going to be interesting to see this week on Ring of Honor TV who wins the four-way to get that shot at Roosh. There is a Foundation member in that four-way, so I would say he'd be a real strong favorite to win that four-way to keep that story rolling.
When you look at the other three and you think of the issues that they're intertwined into, I mean, gosh, you gotta go with Lethal, especially because of the greater story at hand.
If this was for a Ring of Honor World Title shot on a future edition of Ring of Honor TV, I would say it's wide open. Any one of the four of them could pull it off. With it being the pay-per-view, I mean, Jay Lethal's got to win that match somehow. It's going to be more interesting to see how do they get there than who's going to win that match. In my eyes, I have certainly been wrong about that before. We will talk about that in a few moments here when we get to I almost did it again. Revolution.
Retribution.
That name is just grained in my head. But Tom, who do you think is going to challenge King and Dragon Lee?
That's a good question. I've been racking my brain about that, to be honest with you, since they won. And I just don't know who's out there to challenge them right now. I don't even know that I've looked back at the rankings, and I thought it was really interesting because they listed the rankings when Brian Johnson got his shot on YouTube / Facebook, and we had talked about Bandito being in that mix, I think, a week ago, and
I think so.
And he wasn't on that list, which is weird. So I don't know how quickly, like when, where, and how. Like with AEW, you get new rankings every Wednesday before Dynamite. I don't know that I'm in sequence with when Ring of Honor does that.
Usually on week by week.
Okay, Tuesday maybe.
Those are Tuesday at noon. Yeah, and I have not seen this week. I haven't seen anything this week, so I have not seen week by week.
Yeah, so I think that you have to have it be kind of maybe just a random pairing, maybe, but I don't know. Like, do you want to, you're trying to honor the ranking system, but I don't know who falls in the rankings where. You could argue that the Briscoes make sense, even though they lost to King and Lee, for them to get the shot because Flip Gordon interference. And then two, talking just a little bit more about that tag title match and the way that the title change went down, the Pure rules were the reason that the foundation lost, not by their own will, but because of the underhanded tactics of LFI. Dragon Lee's second illegal punch, which should have been a DQ, was missed by the referee, knocked Gresham cold, while Lethal had hit a dive and errantly landed on Amy Rose. So lots of stuff going on there. Again, the match quality with a coupling with the storylines on Ring of Honor in the last few weeks have been the best after the Pure Tournament. The Pure Tournament had its own path and story, which is fantastic. But now that they're shifting, it's been really, really good and really enjoyable.
Yeah, I got to give. We've talked about it before. Ring of Honor is they're starting to click now, and I just wish because I don't see them going back to 2-ring maybe this year at all, and definitely not until probably fall at the earliest. Do some monthly specials. I want to give you $10, and I will give you $10 at the end of March for to pick up Honor Club so that I can see the anniversary show. Oh my goodness! Just you're clicking. You're doing some good things. Like build on that. I don't know. We're preaching to the choir here, but
yeah, and just as a business, if you're investing all of the time and money to bring guys in and have them quarantine and have them test and then do tapings, to not then give yourself more content for what's behind a paywall. Like, not that I'm advocating for that. If you want to give me everything that you want to give me for free on TV, great. I get that, and I'll take it. Right? I'm happy to tune in for an hour every week, but I can't imagine your merch numbers are that strong that you don't want to have other revenue streams coming in.
I just don't feel like, and maybe I'm totally wrong on this, I don't feel like it would increase their cost much, if anything, to add in an Honor Club special. Maybe it would. Maybe I'm totally wrong and they can't tape another, 5 to 7 matches. I'm not saying it's got to be 9, 10, 11, 12 match show. Make it a 2-hour show. That's, that'd be so that it's a little longer than your Ring of Honor TV show, but it's not, your pay-per-view. That's fine. Make it a 2.5 tops hour show. I just can't think that the cost to do that is that much more than they would recoup in people who would pay $10 a month to know that I'm getting not only the pay-per-views for free, but I'm also at least once a month going to get this special show that I'm only going to see here. They might recap it on the TV show, but they're not, like a WWE pay-per-view, they're not going to show the matches. I know they did that during the pandemic early, but hey, they were trying to figure out what to do in a pandemic. Total pass. It just blows my mind.
And you can promote that new content for only $10 more a month for the cost of 2 cups of coffee at your favorite, local coffee shop or chain, whatever. We're going to give you this.
Right. That you can only see on Honor Club. Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the cost is too much. And if it is, I understand it's a business, but boy, you're putting out a ton of content that you're not other than selling ads on your own stations and however you monetize YouTube. Because I'm sure they have enough subscribers and enough views that they're monetizing on YouTube. Get another revenue stream going. Like, yeah. I know you have Honor Club, but give me a reason to want to get it.
Well, and with the big matches they've been giving us on TV, they always talk about it. This match goes past the top of the hour. You can go and watch it on Honor Club. I fear for the fact that if that's the route they end up going, if at some point the rubber meets the road and we get a pure title match as the main event, and we get to the 26-minute mark and we're out of time, we got to go tune in for the rest of this on Honor Club, and then you have to pay for that. That's going to be in poor taste. If you get us there already, and again, maybe they want to reward the people who are already doing it, and if that's their prerogative, that's their prerogative. I think that'd be in bad taste because, to use your TV as a way to get you there, that path is not a path I'm in favor of.
Right. Well, and the fact that the TV show doesn't air at the same time everywhere by any means would so then you're going to have the finish up there before some people even see the show. So they're going to be like, well, I know, I understand why they say it. It gets the word Honor Club out there, but I almost hope they never do it. It's kind of like the pure rules of if somebody interferes, they're fired. I mean, it's a creative way that now if somebody is leaving Ring of Honor, you could have them interfere in a pure rules match, and then you're like, and they're fired, and you never see them again. But other than that, why have it? Because You got a corner you're painting yourself into there. And the overrun like that, they don't want to be Halloween Havoc 97 when nobody got to see Goldberg DDP. They don't want to do that. Don't do that on your TV show. All right. Anything else, Ring of Honor, Tom? Otherwise,
no, that's good for now.
We haven't talked a lot of AEW. We got a little bit of AEW conversation in last week, but it's been a little while, so it's nice that we're going to be able to really kind of dive deep into AEW here. And first of all, though, our head-to-head, we updated last week after Takeover, Elimination Chamber. Elimination Chamber. Yep. Get them in the right order here, Jim. And we are tied. Remind me again, Tom, what the records are. They're tied.
We are tied at 20-6 apiece. 20 wins, 6 losses.
20-6. I would take it if the Cubs can start 20-6 this year. I don't think they're going to, but I would take it if they could. And if the Bears went 20-6, because that means they won a Super Bowl and more. So I got a better chance with the Cubs than I do the Bears. Anyways, so 20-6 heading into head-to-head. And again, we have 9 matches to talk about on this show. Assuming they all happen, I hope they do. Certainly, obviously, in this time frame, we know that things can change on a dime as they did with Elimination Chamber. Hopefully nobody gets pregnant or tests positive or has any sort of injury. So hopefully we get all of 9 of these matches, because I actually think they've done a reasonable job. Whether there's a match or two that I don't care a lot about, but they've tried to tell a story to get to the matches. So I think they've done a nice job of that. But let's put a little ticker up there for anybody who does watch on YouTube later. And again, remember, you can see Tom's beautiful face again on YouTube now. Unlike last week was the first week, the re-debut of Tom Bobo's face.
And I got a haircut now, so even more incentive to come and check out this.
And you've always had a much better background because you have the room behind you, where I just have this blue wall. I have a green tarp that I've been intending to put up so I can have fun backgrounds behind me, and yeah, that doesn't happen. So best light plans, right? All right, let's talk head-to-head. Excuse me, a frog in my throat there.
We've got a coin flip to do to determine who picks first. I have a sad dog who is woken up late this morning and has now been begging me to be let outside. So I'm gonna mute my screen, run and let the dog out while you pull up the coin flipper. So apologize for those listening on iTunes and your other podcast platform. We're gonna have a minute or so, perhaps, unless Jim talks of dead air. So we'll be right.
I'll go ahead and fill the space here as best as I can. I'm going to bring a coin up. Let's see. What state should we use? I have all sorts of different options here. So we're going to use a Pennsylvania quarter just for fun. And I need to change it. There we go. Oh, that coin flip's no fun. We're going to find an online coin flipper here. But the best part is, like I said, they've done a decent job of building this show. So let's see what we can do here. There we are. We're going to share this for anybody who is watching on YouTube. You will actually get to see this coin. There it is with the ads and everything attached. All right. And I get to call it this time. So tails never fails. So we're going to go with tails for my my flip, and let's see. Tails failed. So that didn't work. So Tom wins the coin flip, meaning Tom, you are going to get a chance to make the first pick for the first match, which will give you the first pick in 5 matches. You were muted, Tom. So I see you're trying to say something to me.
Yeah, I'm going to defer. I'm going to give you the first pick. So that way I think that means I will end up getting the final pick. So because we're odd.
Right.
Nine matches.
Would get the first pick on 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, which would be 5.
Which is okay. That's okay. That's what I want. Sorry.
You don't want to make the first pick on the last match. I understand what you're doing there.
Yeah.
All right. So you're going to defer, which is a thing I think we can do. So we're making the rules up to go here, so we can do anything we want.
Here's the thing. The goal is that we don't end up tied here. So that way we don't have to navigate this as we go. But we are tied, so it's good competition.
We are. Everybody who's listening to this, whether you're listening on a podcast or watching on YouTube, you can tell Tom and I do a ton of prep work before we come in.
I was going to say, good competition, bad content. That's what you're here for.
Right.
Tongue in cheek.
All right. So the buy-in match. So I'll make the first pick then. Thunder Rosa and Riho are taking on Britt Baker and Reba. Of course, Thunder Rosa and Britt have had a ongoing battle for months now, which is great. Thunder Rosa, Riho, and Britt Baker are all excellent in the ring. Reba's not bad in the ring. They're booking her as a character that's, a little more comic relief, I guess, than anything. And I don't want to say Britt's heavy because she's not her bodyguard or anything like that. It's not, that style. It's just her, more her lackey, I guess, than anything. And the one who helps her with her shenanigans. Not going to spend a ton of time on a buy-in match. The buy-in matches, typically buy-in matches and kickoff matches, you want the baby faces to go over. I think when you look at this, the way they booked people, one of these things is not like the other. I think Reba somehow screws it up. And whether she takes the fall or she causes Britt to take the fall, which I actually think would be the better way to go, I think Thunder Rosa and Riho are going to win this match.
Yeah, I thought this feud was going to come to an end between Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker in the tournament, and it didn't. I guess it didn't. Maybe it did. Maybe it clearly didn't because we're still here. I also thought that we were going to end up with a different finalist for the Eliminator tournament as well, with a couple of the ladies in this match being potentially involved. I think you're right that Reba, not Rebel, is the person that takes the fall here. Like, that makes the most sense. I think you do need to protect the other three. So yeah, I can't disagree. I love Britt Baker. I want her to be the AEW Women's Champion. I hope that happens here in 2021. I don't know how or when I see that happening. But it's not this weekend, of course. So yeah, Thunder Rosa and Riho are my pick as well.
So the next thing we want to do, though, is not a pick. So we're going to talk things, but we're not going to count it as a pick. And let's chat about the fact Paul White was announced, the former Big Show, No More BS. I do think that's a pretty clever t-shirt. But No More BS. And he announced on Dynamite that AEW has another, I don't know if he said another, but a Hall of Fame caliber signing that will be debuting or appearing at Revolution. There has been a ton of CM Punk speculation, not with anybody that I've read that has any sort of credibility. As far as, it's not like Mike Johnson or Dave Meltzer and I know some people probably feel really strongly one way or the other on some of those guys, Wade Keller, Jason Powell, any of those reporters. I haven't seen any of them say I think it's CM Punk. But a lot of internet chatter on it.
It made me wonder where that buzz, for lack of a better word, where it started. Because I was just like, okay, actually that's the name, right? But why and where? Like, where is this coming from?
Right. And Punk has said on Twitter it's not him, but of course he's not going to say it's him, even if it was.
Yeah. See you Sunday, guys.
Right. Right. Now, I could see him actually doing something like that, to say, see you Sunday, guys. And then on Sunday on Twitter, post a video and go, hey, guys, it's Sunday. Everybody have a great day. Or, he's absolutely the guy who would troll people like that. And Batista has said, I've seen some Batista rumblings. He said there needs to be a new word for retired in wrestling because nobody believes the word retired anymore, which he's right. And many, many wrestlers have led to nobody believing the word retired in wrestling. Other names I've seen thrown around. Christian has been confirmed to be signed to a Legends deal in WWE by somebody, so I don't believe it's Christian. He appears to be under a Legends deal. Mark Henry's name has been thrown around. Henry has said on Busted Open, where he appears a couple of times a week, I know, on the Sirius XM show, that he's hoping to have another match within the next 6 months or so. I don't know if he's under a Legends deal or not. I've seen Kurt Angle's name. Last I knew, he was back as a producer with WWE, so I don't know if he's under contract or not. Somebody here, John Cena's name. No, it's not John Cena. I don't know. Any names you're kicking around, Tom? My problem is when they do this, I fear our friend John S. said if it's not Punk, the internet wrestling community is going to just crap all over this. And I kind of feel the same way. Like, they're not their fault that everybody's speculating so wildly, because they said it in a way to make you speculate wildly. But boy, they better be able to deliver.
Yeah, there are no names that are coming to mind for me. Just because I don't typically spend time thinking about guys that aren't active and in the mix. CM Punk is that name, like, but that he's that name for anyone right now. Like, I don't care where you go, in the pro wrestling landscape, he'd be the one. He'd be the Impact, the needle mover, if you will. Impact was the wrong term because of the relationship between Impact and AEW.
It's Rich Swann.
But it's also, I know why AEW does this based on the interviews I've read and heard with Tony Khan and kind of the good aggressive kind of approach they're taking. It's also dangerous territory, because how many times do you do something like this or tease something like this and not meet folks' expectations? That's kind of the worst. That's the worst case scenario, right? And again, I don't think you're never going to please everyone all the time, and because of that situation, you set people up for disappointment. Now, that being said, disappointment on your own end is only based on the expectations you set. So if you don't set expectations, like right now, I until that announcement came out on Wednesday and then the speculation started to rumble more yesterday, I thankfully haven't emotionally connected to any of it. And I care, but I don't care. So I'm not going to be disappointed, I don't believe. I'll be interested to see how it plays out. Interesting that you're using your last big signing, which this could have been that. You could have waited and announced Paul White on Sunday instead of 15 days ago, whenever it was. And that would have been impactful, because I think that no one thought of him as ever being where he is.
The first time I saw the Paul White as All Elite meme picture, whatever you want to say, I actually had to look at who posted it, because I thought it was a Photoshop. My initial thought was, no, he's not. And then I went, that's All Elite Wrestling that posted that. That's not, Joe Schmo on Random Wrestling Group 101 on Facebook. That's from All Elite Wrestling. Oh, Paul White's in All Elite. Okay. Yeah, I don't know who it's going to be. I hope whatever they do with the person is interesting. But, and I have seen the Brock Lesnar Rumble as well. And he would be the only other one that I could see besides Punk at that level that would make you go, holy stuff. I mean, John Cena would be too, but again, that would be the most shocking to me outside of Vince McMahon himself appearing on AEW. And I just don't ever see John Cena doing that.
And that begs the question, like, wouldn't you think that WWE would be, now with Paul White's signing and just the longevity that he had, wouldn't they be more proactive and like looking to like lock guys up? I would think that'd be the case. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they really don't care. Maybe they're like, listen, we have our assets, we have our guys that we know are, as much as we knock on them for not building towards the future, we've got our cupboards full. We're not worried about the guys that are out. But like a Brock Lesnar, you would think that they would. You'd also think that Brock Lesnar, unlike CM Punk, would go and say, hey, Vince, I need to let you know I've got an offer. Can you match it? Because out of respect for the business we've done for forever, if you can't,
And out of respect for Brock Lesnar is about Brock Lesnar getting a payday. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So if Lesnar has an offer on the table so one place, he's going to try to play that offer against the other one. He did it with UFC and WWE for years. And he made a lot of money on it. So if he can get an offer from one, WWE will pay Brock Lesnar anytime he wants to come back, I think. But yeah, Lesnar, Punk, or Cena would be mind blowing. anybody else will be like, oh, I think anybody else would almost be like a Sting to me. Like, oh, well, let's see what they do with them. Because that was kind of my reaction with Sting. It was like, well, okay, this could be interesting. Let's see what happens. Be interesting to see. Our good friend Jeff probably knows who it is and is not going to tell us. But that's okay. I don't want to be told. I'm hoping to watch this show Sunday night. I still don't know what's going to happen. So if I am able to watch it live, I'm looking forward to finding out in real time and not being spoiled on social media, hopefully. So let's go back into the picks. Tom, you're going to get the first pick on this next match. Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy versus the best man, Miro, and the recently married Kip Sabian.
Yeah, I'm excited for this match. I feel like it's gone from kind of really hot to a little bit of a simmer because of the length between the wedding and when this is happening. And there isn't a whole lot of physical interaction with these four, but the connection and the vibe is there. And I think it's going to be a fun match. I think this is the spot where Miro destroys Charles as a way to get his revenge for being handcuffed and embarrassed at the wedding. So my pick is going to be Miro. I don't know that they're long in this world as a tag team, but I think that you can easily have them in here. You build Miro, which I think is a long-term goal in AEW. You protect Cassidy because even though I think he's Teflon, you don't want him to be taking the pinfall. Chuck Taylor, sadly, until Trent returns, which I think is not until later in this year from injury, he's going to be one of those guys where, unfortunately, we talk about the Erics of the world, the sad other tag team partner who kind of middles about. Thankfully, Chuck Taylor here has his other best friend in Orange Cassidy to give us this match, but I think you let Miro and Sabian win. You put some finality to this feud, and then the guys go their separate ways.
Yeah, I've gone a couple different ways on this as I've been thinking about it this morning. And if Taylor and Cassidy win, they're going to beat Sabian. We know that they're not pinning Miro because I think they are slowly trying to build Miro to something. But I think you're probably right. I think somehow they get Cassidy taken out, whether they handcuff him or they neutralize Cassidy and it becomes the beat down on Chuck Taylor. And I agree with you. Chuck Taylor is a guy who probably until Trent comes back is going to take more L's than W's. But kudos to AEW for A, keeping the storyline going, and B, finding a way for at least now to keep using Chuck Taylor while his tag team partner is hurt. Because unfortunately, on the other show in WWE, Ivar gets hurt, and now Eric is chasing the 24/7 title around, and he's not I guess the Viking Raiders weren't portrayed lately as world beaters and big tough guys anyways, because they were battling trash monsters. But nonetheless, I know I can't let the trash monster go. But kudos to them for finding a way and not just throwing him into, now Chuck Taylor's been on Dark for 74 weeks in a row. They've kept that storyline going and haven't just kind of killed it off yet. But I'm going to go with you, even though I'd love to be different so that we can continue or try to break this tie. I just don't see Miro being on the losing side in this one. He's a force. So, all right. So
before we jump into this next pick, I do have to let you know, I've gotten a call from my high schooler, and there was a COVID positive test at her school, and she needs to be picked up because of contact tracing. So I don't want to rush our picks, but we have to rush through our picks because I need to get her, unfortunately. So, and this pandemic is a pain in everyone's butt, but this is just one more example of how that is the case because she's a student athlete as well. So now she's going to have to miss basketball. So, here we are. So yeah, so I want to get through.
You're breaking up there, Tom.
Yeah, I was just saying we do have time to complete our picks, but I don't think that we'll be able to go. I won't at least be able to go as in depth with analyzing the rest of the way.
All right. Well, we'll get our picks in, and folks, let's hey, enjoy what we can say and what we can get done, and real life is most important. So Casino Royale Tag Team Battle Royale. Let's rush into that here, or run into that. So far announced: Bear Country, John Silver and Alex Reynolds, Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, Santana and Ortiz, The Butcher and the Blade, Top Flight, Private Party, Pac, and Ray Phoenix. You would have to think FTR, Jurassic Express, and TH2 would be added into this. They just hadn't put them in the graphics yet, maybe because of the 6-man match. I don't know why. But I have to say, I have not seen most of AEW from this past week, but I have read the report. I know what happened. I like Sean Spears coming back in, and even Arn Anderson showing up on the entrance ramp and flashing the 4. There was a lot of talk early on in AEW that FTR, Sean Spears, and Cody Rhodes would end up being AEW's 4 horsemen. Whether Cody ends up somehow involved in this down the road and Arn Anderson showing up could be a hint towards something like that. That's a story I think we can talk about as it moves forward. I love stables, so I'm good with it. And hey, do something with Sean Spears. It's so start and stop with that guy. But let's talk Casino Royale, the Battle Royal. It's a Battle Royal, so it's a real crapshoot here. I can certainly run through teams that I don't think are going to win it, but I think you're looking at Pac and Ray Phoenix having a really good shot at winning this. I think FTR would also be a really good shot at winning this, and maybe Jurassic Express. Probably your top 3, and 2 of those 3 aren't officially announced, but I'm just going to assume they're in the match. I'm going to go FTR. I'm going to go FTR winning this Battle Royal. I just think it makes the most sense to keep them in the tag team hunt. They've been talking about trying to get back to the titles. This would be a way for them to get that shot.
That's a smart pick, and I hope they get added. I was actually really hoping for FTR versus Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy in a 2-on-2 singles. We didn't get that formally on after Wednesday, after what played out. I haven't seen any buzz about that. And this is a loaded card already with 9 matches, including the buy-in. So that may still be coming, but I don't think it's coming Sunday. So it does make sense that those teams would be added here. If they don't, it kind of seems like a missed opportunity. Right. The other element here that I think of an unannounced team that could be in the mix that would make a lot of sense and be a long-term story would be the Good Brothers. That would be fun. But I don't know if that's possible. I had to think it's possible, but I don't know that it is. So I'm going to stick with a team that's on the list, and I'm going to go with the team that looked strong on Wednesday. And I think it'd be a fantastic tag title match whenever that happens, and that's going to be Pac and Ray Phoenix to win here. So we have our first different opinion.
Absolutely, we do, and I agree with you. If it's Young Bucks or Jericho and MJF, but I think you may have tipped your hat to who you might think will win that tag match when you said fantastic match. If it's Young Bucks versus Pac and Phoenix, sign me up. That would be really, really fun to watch. We'll get to that tag match in just a few here, but let's move on to the Face of the Revolution ladder match. Cody Rhodes for a future shot at the TNT title, currently held by Darby Allin. Cody Rhodes versus Pentagon Jr. versus Scorpio Sky versus Lance Archer versus Max Caster, versus someone, a mystery person. So now we got 2 mystery people. We got a Hall of Fame caliber person who we assume is not the one in the Face of the Revolution match. At least that would be weird to have a Hall of Fame caliber person who probably is older as the Face of the Revolution. Of course, we got Cody in here, who's no spring chicken himself. I mean, he's not really old. I mean, he's having a baby. But, so this would be you, Tom, making the first pick on the Face of the Revolution.
Yeah, I wish that there was a mystery partner or mystery opponent in this match. We had the full scope of these guys. I love the talent involved. I think it's an awesome and fun, diverse mix. It's got me really excited to see the match. Again, I don't know if I'm actually going to watch this. My brother has informed me he's opted out of coming over because of his work obligations. So that changes cost for me, which is also then maybe a factor of whether or not I do make this purchase or not. So that's tough because I really want to see this show. I just struggle right now with the disposable income of $50 or $60 for it. It's just not the best fit right now. My pick here is Scorpio Sky. I love the guy. I'm high on him. He was doing something with Shawn Spears when he was on commentary on Wednesday in the qualifier. He talked about how he had been injured and he was coming back here. I think that Scorpio Sky Darby Allin would be an awesome match. I think it's a good way to reintroduce Scorpio, but also have Darby get a win over an established talent, unless they wanted to transition away from Darby as champion. I don't think that that's where they're headed, but I think of the guys here, I don't want to see Cody versus Darby again. Pentagon will be awesome, but if he's back in the mix, it seems like he and Ray Phoenix are the natural pair, or they're going to do something with Death Triangle at a greater extent. Caster and Archer, not really. I don't see either of them now. Caster's a future star. I love him. I think the rap gimmick and his persona, his body is solid. He's going to even get better because he's super young. Let's hope it's not TBA, but whoever TBA is, I hope it's worthwhile.
Yeah, and I should say that when I said Max Caster the way I did, it was only because Max Caster faced Preston Vance on this last Dynamite episode, and on last week's show, I said I thought Preston Vance, he would have been my pick to win this thing, because I thought maybe they were getting ready to strap a rocket to Preston Vance. Now, they used it to tell the story that they're telling with Matt Hardy and Hangman Page, who we're going to get to in just a minute here, but I was just disappointed because I thought I saw something there. And in fact, in our fantasy wrestling league, I picked up Preston Vance for that exact reason and went and got myself a -1. So kudos to the last place guy who gets himself another negative because he makes a dumb pickup.
No pun intended that you got -1 because of Preston Vance.
I got -1 because of Preston Vance. Absolutely. That should be a positive with Preston Vance because -1 is his guy. And yeah, not so much in this case, but oh well, I digress. You and I both are hoping the TBA is Chris Hero. I don't think either of us are expecting TBA to be Chris Hero, but it's got to be somebody who's debuting, right? It can't just be like, it can't be Preston Vance. It can't be Colt Cabana. It can't be Matt Sydal, or anything like that. Or even, JD Drake would be really cool to debut here, but I think you've got to give a storyline to JD Drake or somebody like that coming from Dark into this match.
It could be Shawn Spears.
It could be Shawn Spears, and that actually would make some sense, given that they re-debuted him or brought him back, whatever you want to say, with blonde hair now. Is he the Barry Windham of the Horseman? Good worker, blonde hair, wore a glove for a while. Think I see something. It's really hard to pick against Cody Rhodes on a pay-per-view. It just really is. And there's a story you could tell there because Darby did win the title from Cody. Didn't he? Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. I'm going Cody. I don't love that pick, but I'm going Cody. It's hard for me to pick against Cody on a pay-per-view. It just, call me crazy. And maybe Shawn Spears gets involved to help Cody. And maybe that's part of this. If Cody's going to the Horseman, maybe. I don't know. I might be way overthinking that. I knew you were going to pick Scorpio Sky because I know how high you are on him. I just don't know. I feel like they want to do something with him, and he was hurt for a while. So maybe this will be the start. And kudos if it is, because I think he is really good. He's a really good talker. He seems like a guy who could do a lot of good PR stuff for you too, because he's a very well-spoken person. So I think Sky would be great if they want to get behind him. So we'll see how that works. All right, let's go to the match. I don't think we got to spend a lot of time on this match because I got to be honest, this is my Shane McMahon versus Braun Strowman match for this card. The big money match. The winner gets the other one's Q1 earnings, which they haven't, unless they said it this week, they haven't even said, like, is that a lot of money? Is it not a lot of money? I don't know. They both had figures. Matt Hardy's is just coming out, so maybe that won't happen in Q1. Matt Hardy signed a big money contract with AEW, we think, or that's the way they portrayed it. Hangman Page has been one of the early stalwarts, was signed right away. Hangman Page has to win here, right? I mean, he has to win here. I don't have a lot to say about it other than Hangman Page has to win here.
Yeah, I agree. We talked about this a lot last week. We lamented on this match and the issue and Matt Hardy, and I think Matt Hardy adds value without a doubt. His name, his mind, business. I feel like he's weighing Adam Page down. The issue seems to be shifting to Matt Hardy in the Dark Order, which I think is probably better.
Yeah.
I think it also helps bring the Dark Order up another level. But yeah, Adam Page is my pick as well.
It's just got to be. If it's not, they're wrong. If it's not, they're wrong. That's just all I can say. Let's move into the AEW women's title match. Hikaru Shida, I forgot to put the little C next to her name, but she is the champion. Defending versus a surprise winner, I would say, of the women's eliminator tournament, Ryo Mizunami. I have to admit, other than what aired on Dynamite and the matches that happened on Dynamite, I have not seen any of the eliminator tournament. So I am not really familiar with Mizunami. I'm looking forward to watching as I finish Dynamite later this weekend sometime. I'm looking forward to her match with Nyla Rose to see a little bit more about her. But I don't know. Tom, you have the first pick on this one, though.
Yeah, Shida's retaining without a doubt. You don't switch the title here, despite the fact that Mizunami looked great in the tournament and looked strong. I was really nervous on Wednesday that they were going to put Rose over and have Rhoda, because I think there's history there, of course. But then I thought, oh my gosh, if you do that, and then you have to give the belt to Nyla Rose, because you've burned her, like you burned that talent, and we talked before here. We talked the end of last year quite a bit that it was going to take some time to rehab Nyla Rose. I think the tournament did that, and she looked strong in defeat. And I think she's more of a featured talent in the long-term scope of AEW. But I think that beating Mizunami adds to the credibility of her reign as champion. So she does my pick.
All right. I'm with you. I haven't seen a lot of Mizunami, so I feel like I can't say a whole lot about this match. Shida's been awesome as champion. And I agree. I was a little concerned they were going to go, when I saw that was the final, was going to be Rose and Mizunami. I thought Rose would have won. If we were doing a pick 'em for Dynamite last week, I would have picked Rose. No question. And I just feel like I've seen Shida Rose enough. So I'm glad they went a different direction. Again, if I end up watching the show on Sunday night, or if I end up seeing it sometime later, I'm looking forward to seeing this match because Shida's awesome. And I've heard good things about how Mizunami looked. So I would be looking forward to seeing this match for sure. But Shida's keeping the belt. I think there's way too many stories to still tell with Shida. And unless Mizunami is actually coming in full time, putting your title on someone who isn't going to be in the U.S. all the time, probably not a great idea in this current climate. So, although, hey, New Japan kept the U.S. title on Mox, so whatever. Spoiler, if you hadn't seen that. Sorry, Tom.
No, I'm good. I'm caught up.
Okay. Right after I said that, I was like, oh, I don't know if Tom saw that, but now I just ruined it. All right, let's talk that tag title match. The Young Bucks defending against Chris Jericho and MJF. I got to say, MJF has lasted longer in the Inner Circle than I ever expected him to last. I thought that was going to be a couple of weeks and done, blows up. So they've done more of a slow burn with, let's be honest, we know it's not going to last. These two can't coexist forever, Jericho and MJF. Jericho and MJF as the almost are they, aren't they oddball champions could have some legs. But I just don't think that's where we're going. I think we see Sammy Guevara reappear here and be the reason that the Young Bucks end up winning, not because he helps no correlation between Guevara and the Young Bucks, but Guevara costing Jericho and MJF, somehow distracting, interfering, whatever. And that we haven't seen Guevara since he quit the Inner Circle. So I think this is where Guevara makes his reappearance. Guevara could be the TBA in the ladder match too. I just don't think, unless that ladder match happens after this, I don't think that makes any sense. His first time reappearing should be something around this. I think Guevara interferes, and I think the Young Bucks keep the titles and move on. Because at some point, you think we got to be getting Young Bucks, Good Brothers. I liked your idea of the Good Brothers maybe being in that tag battle royal. Hadn't thought about it. Makes a ton of sense. Um, Young Bucks are winning this match.
Yep, we agree on picks here. I love your idea. It was where I was possibly headed to. Sammy Guevara appearing here, showing up, makes a lot of sense. Jericho and MJF taking pinfall losses is something that we haven't seen in AEW. That is a key thing to keep an eye on, even if it's dirty, because Guevara does interfere. It's really funny to see Jericho be the one to eat the pinfall, and like it could have been MJF, but somehow, some way he gets out of it, and then the heat grows between Jericho and MJF because again, you're right, they're them being together as kind of in the same boat and pretty much on the same page has certainly lasted a lot longer. The issue towards the point is Guevara. I think MJF probably will experience the second pinfall loss, if not here, and that would make a lot of sense, in the long term telling in the build of the way ahead. Probably what we're getting at Double or Nothing or sooner, who knows? But yeah, Young Bucks retain again, and the emotional component of this, and what's going on when you get to the segment that last Wednesday. It's good. It's kind of a press conference with Inner Circle, and the Bucks come out and spoiled that, and it led to a brawl. That wasn't bad. It wasn't necessarily great either. It added more fuel to the fire, but you could have left me with Papa Buck being beaten down and the Bucks saying, when we come back, we're coming for revenge, and we got more physical last Wednesday before they're going to clash. So they're done without that, but it doesn't change the outcome. The Young Bucks do retain.
Yeah, absolutely. Your audio breaks up a little bit here and there, Tom, just so you know, which I realize there's nothing you can do about it. It's internet fun.
I'm going to stop Cam just to help with bandwidth.
Okay. Yeah. We'll see if that helps out. But I think we got all the main points in what you were saying. I agree. That actually would have, the Papa Buck thing and the Bucks are coming for revenge at the pay-per-view would have been a great hook, or I don't want to say cliffhanger. That's not the right word, but to kind of give them some retribution, for lack of a better word. Not stable, but to give the Young Bucks some of their retribution, and Jericho and MJF some of the comeuppance already is a little weird. That being said, a couple, from what I've read, a couple of cool, I don't know, cool might be the wrong word, but a couple of cool cameos, at least in the press conference, from folks as well. So, Tom, you get the first pick in the street fight. Sting in his first match in years, in a street fight match with he and Darby Allin versus Team Taz's Brian Cage and Absolute Ricky Starks. You got to believe other members of Team Taz, Hook, and Powerhouse might get involved as well, maybe even Taz himself. But what do you think is going to happen here in the street fight?
I'm excited for it. I believe it's going to be like we talked about before, a cinematic match, which makes a lot of sense, especially if this is the semi-main and no rope barbed wire is the main. It gives you time to set up that ringside area while you show a match on the screen. This also has been really good in terms of the build. Before I talk about my thoughts on the match and kind of where I see it going, you were in '97 just and you weren't connected to all the promotion. A potential dream match fantasy-wise would have been.
You might want to maybe re-say that, Tom. You broke up real bad there for a second, so we didn't hear you.
Sorry about that. '97 dream match would have been Sting versus Taz. If you would have said no promotional boundaries, not that it would have been a good match, but I think the two guys, and Sting and Taz, were arguably two of the hotter talents across the world. So I think that element of this match is interesting. We can go back 24 years and rekindle that. And that wasn't an issue then, but that's a fun kind of connection here. Sting and Darby are the pick to win. I think this is where this feud comes to an end. If I'm wrong, I'm going to be interested how it continues to develop. I don't know how you do that. I think think the shift Darby and like I know that's probably not going to go anywhere, but I want to see Darby be an active TNT champion.
Oh, are you there?
Yep, I'm there.
Okay. I didn't catch the end part there, Tom.
Sure. I was just saying I think we need to shift and have Darby becoming a regular defending champion of the TNT title.
Totally agreed. Yeah, and Sting and Darby was your pick, if I heard you right.
That is, yep.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why our audio today is just gremlins. I'm going to agree with you. Sting and Darby, I think, is my pick as well. I just don't think you have Sting come back for his first match in however many years it's been and then beat him. Ricky Starks seems the most likely to take the pinfall here. I think either Starks or Cage could get pinned, and I don't think it would hurt them that much. But especially in a street fight, you've got the Gaga and all that kind of stuff. But I just think Starks probably takes the fall here. Probably to Sting, which for Starks I would think would be like a really cool thing. Like, hey, I took a fall to Sting. Cool. I don't think he's going to be upset about that. It's not, I took a fall to a 62-year-old man. Dude, it's Sting. Like, you're okay. So I think it'd be fine. And I agree. I this has been a okay build, a reasonably good build. I feel like it kind of has been this until a week ago or so. It had kind of been the same thing for a couple of weeks. So I was glad it started to accelerate a little. But I did like, I think it was a week ago, they had 2 weeks ago, they had the image of Cage and Starks dragging Allin in a body bag behind a car. And then I liked that Sting brought Allin back by dragging him behind a car, like basically showing like Darby Allin likes that. And then Allin comes in on the zip line, which is, somebody made a point on Facebook, and I think it's a good point. It's one of the first times we've seen that. I think even since the Owen Hart tragedy, we just don't see a lot of the repelling kinds of things anymore since that. Even Sting didn't do as much of it in WCW. I think he did it some after the Owen Hart thing, but for a little while he did not, if nothing else, out of good taste. But nonetheless, that was pretty well done, I thought. Darby, I thought the zip line was a little slow getting him in the ring last week, but nothing you can do about that. You're on the zip line, right? So I think Sting and Darby get this win as well. I think it'll be fun. I think, it'll be a plunder match. If it is cinematic, which I think makes a ton of sense, the way that you've laid it out, that it be the cinematic match. Everybody's focusing on that while they're setting up the ring for the main event. I just think that makes a lot of sense. Well, let's talk, Tom, the last match of the night. The AEW World Title Exploding Barbed Wire Death Match. It's like the longest title ever for a main event. Kenny Omega defends versus Jon Moxley. This is a story that literally has been going on since the very first AEW show back at Double or Nothing in 2019. They've been telling this story along the way. The twists and turns with Impact and with Kenny being the heel and all of this, and Kenny being the heel who booked the exploding barbed wire death match. We talked about that last week, that's a little bit like, interesting. I can go either way on this match, but I just don't see Omega losing the title yet. I think there's a lot more to the Omega title reign before we take the belt off of him. I think it's way too soon to do that. And I think that if we eventually are headed towards Adam Page being a world champion, which you got to think is still the plan. That seems like been the plan since day one. Page beating Omega somewhere down the road, whether that be Double or Nothing, whether that be later in the year, All Out, something like that. There's a lot of story there with Page and Omega. So a lot of meat on the bone they could tell there. I think depending on how this Impact, New Japan, whatever, crossovers, how long they're going to go for, I just think there's a lot more meat on the bone with Omega as champion in the role that he's in. This is going to be a spectacle. I hope that it's not a cringeworthy in the way that it just comes off really cheesy spectacle. I hope that it's an entertaining spectacle. I think it will be with the two guys who are in it. But I'm going Kenny Omega to retain the title in the exploding barbed wire death match of doom match.
Yes, I agree with your pick. Omega retains here. I expect a spectacle. I think you described it really well there. I think that because they are acknowledging the history of the match at Sushi Onita and on Dynamite last Wednesday, kind of speak to the violence of this and the this type of match. It's incredibly violent and vicious for where we're at in this issue to an extent, but I can see it because, when Omega won the title, he used the microphone to take out Mox and or Mox jumped into the heater at one point and got that big laceration or abrasion on Omega's face. So the physicality has been here, and again, going back to their unsanctioned match when they got all types of weapons and plunder and barbed wire netting gimmicks and whatnot. I hope my big thing is I think it's going to be amazing. I just hope both guys are incredibly safe. I want them to come out of this as unscathed as possible, as best they're able to. So and I don't know where Mox goes from here, which will be fun to develop if he doesn't win. If he wins, then that's even another interesting path because who then would he face as a future challenger? So there we are. There we have it. All of our picks, and we are pretty consistent with the exception of two matches. So our two differences are both of the matches.
Yep.
The Tech and the Ace of the Revolution match. So
that means we could still be tied if one of us is right in each of those matches. It is possible that even with 9 matches, we could still be tied. But it's also possible if we're both wrong, and let's say Bear Country wins the tag battle royal. I don't expect that to happen, although I like what I've seen at Bear Country. And Pentagon wins the ladder match, then maybe we're still tied at that point too. We could both be wrong. But we'll see on Sunday night. We will see how it all plays out next week. We haven't even talked about what we will talk about next week, but we'll have a lot to talk about. It looks like next week. There's some sort of major announcement coming around NXT. I know that's all I know about it. I haven't seen NXT, so I don't know the context, but there's some sort of major announcement coming. I have read rumblings. So here's a not spoiler. Interesting thing that might be coming, Tom. Of course, there's a lot of talk about is NXT moving to Tuesday nights, which might be happening, but also talk that TakeOver may happen WrestleMania weekend, but it might be on Thursday. And it might be a 2-night Wednesday, Thursday thing. So you would then have NXT on Wednesday night, TakeOver on Thursday night, SmackDown on Friday night, WrestleMania on Saturday night, WrestleMania on Sunday night, Monday Night Raw, Tuesday night potentially would be when NXT would move to Tuesday nights.
That's a lot.
Holy smokes.
And I'm on vacation for that entire stretch.
I know you are.
And I'll be traveling, so I don't know that I have enough room on the DVR.
Right. You might have to call your cable company and see if you can bump that storage limit up by any chance. But that's just an insane amount of things. At least WrestleMania, which will be a huge portion of the memory you would need, won't be on the DVR. You'll have it on Peacock. So, but yeah, good luck catching up on that when you get back from vacation, my friend.
Vacation from my vacation just to watch wrestling.
And I have trivia nights within there somewhere. And when am I supposed to watch any of this stuff? My wife would probably like to see me. I don't know, but maybe she won't by that point too. But yeah, it's crazy. Normally that weekend, of course, is crazy with all the indie shows and everything. And there still are some indie shows going on that weekend as well. And try to factor all of that in if you want to see any of those. If they book things that you want to see too, good luck. Anyways, more to talk about in the future. Tom, I know you got to go and get your high schooler. Prayers that all turns out well there, and that everybody stays healthy This is the world we live in right now, unfortunately. But
we've been so good. 9 months into the school year, roughly 7 months into the school year, and again, that's just isolation and not actual. Enough impacted by that. So thanks for sticking with us. Sorry, folks, for the audio issues. We'll try better. I always do next week.
Absolutely. Everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you again next week right back here on Two Spot Monkeys Live. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.